Mercedes is one Formula One team with a long and complicated history. Yeah, starting over a century ago, they've experienced plenty of ups and downs, yet their determination has never wavered. With legendary drivers like Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher associated with the team, Mercedes has undoubtedly become an iconic name in Formula One. Here's the real story behind the rise of Mercedes-Benz in Formula One. To understand Mercedes' history in F1, you need to go back a whole century. Mercedes has been part of motor racing even before it even had a name. Crazy, right? The brand we know today was formed in 1926 when Benz & C and Daimler Motoren Gesellschaft merged to create Daimler-Benz. The original Mercedes took part in the first ever motor race, the 1894 Paris-Rouen, where a Benz car finished in 14th. By the 1930s, their silver arrows dominated European Grand Prix racing. So when F1 started in the 1950s, it made sense for Daimler-Benz to compete. This was a huge occasion in F1 history, and that's because this F1 season was the first time in 14 years that Mercedes returned to a Grand Prix. They started things off with the 1954 season, bringing forward the legendary Mercedes-Benz W196. It's one of the most iconic cars from that era. And while the looks might be great, the really amazing thing about this little bad boy was just how advanced it was. Like, it came in two separate versions, an open-wheeler and a streamlined variant. Keep in mind the cars from back then were a lot different from how we know them to be nowadays. But honestly, that added to the charm. And it's why so many Formula One fans look back at this era so fondly. Anyway, did Mercedes live up to their epic return to the motorsport world? Totally. With the Argentine driver Juan Manuel Fangio, the 1951 world champion at the wheel, who joined Mercedes from Maserati just in time for the team's debut at the 1954 French Grand Prix, Mercedes dominated. The guy ended the season as the driver's champion, securing 4 pole positions and 4 wins for Mercedes. Yeah, Mercedes was all about winning it big, from the second they stepped into the F1 world. But as we all know, things didn't exactly go as planned for the company. And 1955 resulted in a massive tragedy that completely altered their course. Now, things started off pretty well. It was set to be the first full Formula One season for the company, and with how much it dominated the previous one, people were totally amped to see what was about to go down. The excitement was beyond words, honestly. Just take a look at the roster. The team featured several drivers: Juan Manuel Fangio, Carl Kling, Sterling Moss, Hans Hermann, André Simon, and Piero Taruffi. But that's not all. They used an updated version of the previous year's Mercedes-Benz W196, which they continuously developed throughout the season. It was already a beast of a vehicle, but with these new changes, it was all set to be monstrous. And, well, that's exactly how things started. Mercedes dominated, securing 4 pole positions and winning 5 out of 7 races. Fangio won 4 races, and Sterling Moss famously won his home British Grand Prix. With Fangio getting the Drivers' Championship, with Moss finishing second, things couldn't be looking better for Mercedes. And then, everything went wrong. So wrong. The date was June 11th, 1955. The location? Le Mans. Mercedes driver Pierre Levegh crashed, causing a horrific accident that killed him and over 80 spectators. This event, known as the 1955 Le Mans disaster, is the single most catastrophic crash in motorsport history. Even almost a century later, nothing even comes close to the sheer destruction and damage this caused. Mercedes just couldn't handle it, and the company just couldn't see how to move forward after it. So for literal decades, it left the world of motorsports behind. That is, until 1994. But not as a competing team. Instead, Mercedes-Benz tested the waters by becoming a supplier. In 1994, Mercedes supplied engines to Sauber, but in 1995, they partnered with McLaren, acquiring a 40% stake in the team and making McLaren a de facto Mercedes Works team. This turned out to be the right move on their part, because, let's just say, the partnership was hugely successful. After all, McLaren Mercedes achieved 78 wins and won 1 Constructors and 3 Drivers' Championships between 1995 and 2014. But it wasn't until 2010 that Mercedes returned as a works team. With their Mercedes MGP W01, all eyes were set on the team to see if they'd make as big of a splash as they did back when they first joined F1 in the 50s. And you know how they say lightning doesn't strike the same place twice? Yeah, the team really didn't have a great first season when it returned. It was filled with struggles, with the team's best results being 3 third-place finishes by Nico Rosberg. But hey, it was their first time back in literal decades, so y'all should cut them some slack. Mercedes would continue to try and find its footing during those years, but without a doubt, the real transformation came in 2013 when Lewis Hamilton joined the team. That's a name that needs no introduction, and when he replaced the retiring Schumacher, things totally turned around for them. Hamilton, along with Rosberg, began to turn Mercedes into a powerhouse. That year, Mercedes finished second in the Constructors' Championship, which was just a taste of their upcoming dominance. It helped that the 2014 season had tons of new regulations, especially with the introduction of the V6 turbo hybrid engines. But unlike some other teams who struggled with this change, Mercedes flew by with flying colors. They absolutely nailed the new formula with the F1 W05 hybrid, and Hamilton and Rosberg dominated the track, securing 16 wins out of 19 races. Hamilton got his second World Drivers' Championship, and Mercedes took the Constructors' title with a massive lead. It's safe to say that it's these years that transformed the company, turning it into the titan that people know of today. And a lot of it was thanks to the epic rivalry between Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. These two were destined to be rivals. Seriously. They pushed each other to greater heights, especially during the 2016 season. Rosberg came out swinging, winning the first 4 races. But Hamilton fought back, and Rosberg was on fire, getting his first and only Drivers' Championship by a mere 5 points. With drivers like these at the wheel, Mercedes, of course, got their 3rd Constructors' title with ease. But you know how Mercedes can't ever have anything good happen before something goes wrong? Well, this time, Rosberg announced his retirement right after his big win. This came as a shock to many, but it resulted in the entry of Valtteri Bottas in 2017. At the time, Mercedes faced a tougher challenge from Ferrari, but our boys in silver didn't back down. Hamilton and Bottas took turns on the podium, with Hamilton ultimately grabbing his 4th driver's title and Mercedes securing their 4th Constructors' Championship. It wasn't as smooth as previous years, but hey, who doesn't love a good underdog story? 2018 brought more of the same intense competition with Ferrari. Hamilton didn't score a win until Azerbaijan, but once he did, he was unstoppable. He racked up 11 victories, getting his 5th Drivers' Championship and becoming one of only 3 drivers to do so. Mercedes also made history with their 5th consecutive Constructors' title. Oh, and here's a fun fact for you. Hamilton's 5th title put him in an elite club with Juan Manuel Fangio and Michael Schumacher, both former Mercedes drivers. Coincidence? Nope. That's just the Mercedes charm. And Hamilton didn't just stop there. In 2019, Mercedes dominated with their W10 car, with Hamilton grabbing his 6th World Drivers' Championship. At the same time, the team got their 6th consecutive Constructors' Championship. Hamilton leapt onto 2020 with the same pace, securing his 7th title, with Mercedes getting yet another Constructors' Championship. But all good things must come to an end, right? In 2021, the team faced some stiff competition from Red Bull Racing. Cracks were already starting to show, especially in their car's rear-end instability. These problems got worse in the 2022 season, with the pace and tire management being noticeably worse. Red Bull got the win that year, and Mercedes had to settle in 2nd place. Now in 2024, Mercedes has showcased the W15E performance, which aims to build on all the hard lessons they've learned from previous seasons. But with Lewis Hamilton leaving the team soon, will it be enough? Either way, one thing's for sure. It's going to be interesting to see just where this iconic team ends up in the future. Anyway, if you want to check out some more content on F1 racing and its history, make sure to click on this next video.